coming up to an event pretty quick. I said, could you get me in? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, how much is it? He said, $35. It'd be like $250 in today's money, right? And I said, $35? I'm making $40 a week as a janitor. Right? I said, I can't do that. He goes, well, then just learn on your own experience and waste a few decades. I said, you really think it's that valuable? He goes, no, you have to decide if it's that valuable. And so I remember I wrestled with this like it was the biggest decision of my life, a week's pay. And I went in and I heard this man speak. He said some simple things like, for things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better, right? It was interesting things. But at the end, I was so excited. I went up to him and I said, I want to come work for you. I want to learn this. I want to be a part of this. And he turned to me and said, look, kid, he goes, if you want to come work for me, you got to go through all my programs. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, you got to this. It was like $1,200 for just one of the programs for a weekend. $1,200 like $10,000 today, to give you an idea, $12,000. I'm, at the time, sleeping in my car, working as a janitor. My dad left. My mom kicked him out. Mom's a strong woman. And then she chased me out with a knife. She wasn't going to kill me, but I wasn't going back in that place. And so I'm like, I can't do this. And then somebody said, decide. He goes, some people have to survive, some people succeed. Decide which one you are. And if you're ready by next Saturday, a week from Saturday, he goes, I'm starting a training and you can join it. But if you don't have the money for it, you won't be able to do it. And I remember leaving thinking, this guy just wants my money. He's such a jerk. And I was so angry. But then in my head, I was like, he's right. I've always gotten what I had to have. I haven't had to have much. And so I started going to banks. I walked in this place, I had 5 banks turned down, and I saw this woman who looked persuadable and sweet, and her name was Mrs. Williams. This woman looks at me and she goes, the bank's not going to loan you this money. And she's like my 5th bank. And I said, you don't understand. And I got all passionate. She goes, with this kind of focus and energy, I think you can do something. I like it to be something good. And she goes, I'm going to talk to the bank, but if the bank will loan you the money, I will. If you look me in the eye and you swear to me I'm never going to have to come find you and you will take care of this. And I jumped across, hugged her and kissed her. She wasn't quite ready for that. I went to Jim Rohn's seminar. I went to work for him. And the first question when I finally got a private moment with him that I asked was, I had 4 fathers. They are all good men. They all worked hard. How come we never had any money and sometimes no food? I said, I look over at the school teacher who makes $35,000 a year, I think, in those days. And then I see this hedge fund guy who made $1 billion in a year. I said, that is so unjust. And he gave me a lesson that changed my whole life. He said, Tony, he said, you're right. We're all equal as souls, but we're not equal in the marketplace. And so what does that mean? He said, well, let me ask you a question. Is it possible for someone to make twice as much money in the same amount of time? Yeah, 4 times, 10 times, 100 times? Yeah, people do it. How? He goes, you have to become more valuable. He goes, if you go to work at McDonald's, you get this tiny little income. It's not made to be an ideal job. It's a first-time job. Anyone can learn to do it in 2 hours. And I've been obsessed about it ever since. And that changed everything in my life. My whole life became, how do I add more value? And so today I have 121 companies, and we're doing $12 billion in business across almost every industry you can imagine that I'm a part of. And I couldn't run one company in the start and make it successful at $300,000 a year, for the revenue. All that became in every industry, and I have a lot of them. I'm the number one in the industry. It's because I'm obsessed with adding value. And so I think that piece is what's missing also from our youth. You're saying, what do they need to do? They think I'm here to get something. No, life is calling you. What are you going to give? Not just what you want to give, but what people need. And so my focus is I give people what they want. They want to make more money. They want a better relationship. But my goal is so I can give them what they need, which is a life that has more meaning. And that's one that goes beyond yourself.
It's going to be a stressful period.
Yes.
To say the least. I think algorithms are actually making our online experiences more stressful. I think
100%.
Because, they're designed to retain our attention, and the best way to retain our attention is probably fear.
Yeah.
And I think this with myself, I find myself watching all these fucking short form videos that are just like, they feel like they're at some level frying something, depleting something in me. But they're designed, it's designed, the algorithm just to serve me up the next one that's going to hold me or scare me or whatever. Yep. So in such a world where the algorithms are probably going to, in the online world, especially for younger kids, is going to really, it's going to be better at taking hold of us. What are the tools that I need to deal with this stress and this angst?
the first step to me would be take 15 minutes out of your day and go for micro learning. Like decide you're going to learn what matters, right? About yourself, about AI. We tell people like you already have habits, right? Most people are scrolling a good portion of the day. Give me 15 of those minutes and let's do micro learning on something, a new language to stimulate your brain, philosophy, history, AI, something pragmatic, something that's valuable. It's just getting people to have some habits that, the 1% growth metaphor, right? 27 times at the end of the year. It's pretty simple. All we have to do is create a new direction. If you try to do it one giant step, it's overwhelming for people. The secret to life is chunking. Think of it this way. Some people never work out, but they eat easily. So I'll say to them, why don't you work out? And they'll give me all the reasons. And I'll say, but I'd have to join a gym. And I say, okay, well, tell me what's entailed. And they'll go, I got to look up where the gyms are. And then I got to drive to each of the gyms. And then I got to park the car each place and find it. And then I got to get out and then, hopefully get a pass. And then they take you on the tour and then they want to sit you down and sell stuff to you. And they got it back in the car and you got to drive things. And then when you go do it, let's say you sign up, then you go and you got to check in and take off all your clothes. And then they drop and get wrinkled. And then you go work out and it's sweaty. You got to wipe other people's sweat off. And then afterwards you got to go do a shower and your hair is messed up and your makeup, and you got to start all over and everything else. And then you got to get the thing and you got to back out. It's like, it's too much work. What does it take to eat? Oh, you just go. They chunk eating is one thing. They chunk working out is 29,000 things, right? So if you chunk too big, try to do everything in one bite, it's overwhelming. And if you chunk it too small, it's overwhelming. So there's a different size for different things. And if we want to learn and grow, which is what the secret is to your future, is to become a learning machine about what matters. Like, most people major in minor things. They know more about some actresses or actors' love life than they do, or their skin regimen, than they do about their own values and needs and what makes them tick as a human being. Today, you can learn from the brightest, smartest people on earth. They're available. They're available by online. They're available by contracting or coaching. They're everywhere. There isn't a limit anymore. There's zero limit, except you're deciding to be a creator and not a maintainer. So you're deciding, I'm not just going to manage my life. I'm going to design and create something because the tools are available everywhere. And so I'm just one of those.
I have a couple of questions based on what you've just said. The first one, starting at the top, was around, you talked about this idea of pattern recognition, utilization and creation.
Yes.
The question I had from that section was, is there a way to get better at pattern recognition?
Yeah. Well, first, by understanding it's the most important key.
Okay.
So it's like, if I'm fearful, what's the pattern I'm missing here? What's something that could give me some history to understand that this isn't random? Like, people say, I overeat, I overdrink, I get really angry, whatever. You don't overeat every moment. You don't smoke every moment. What are the triggers that you use? And
do you recommend people write? How do they raise their self-awareness enough to start spotting these patterns?
I believe in diaries, or you call it diary, I call it journals. I believe in journals is to be able to do that, to guide yourself. But yes, but it's more than that. You have to not only make the distinction, but you also have to have a different state to it. For example, let's say I say to you, I know, I need to lose weight. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to work out. Am I going to do it? No.
You're
because
fighting it.
I'm not in the state to do it. Now, most people are trying to figure out what to do. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's the wrong sequence. Because when you think about what to do, if you've never done it before, you feel uncertain, you don't follow through. If you have done it before, but you don't feel strong enough, you're not going to follow through. So I tell people, if you want a breakthrough, it's three things: strategy, story, state. Most people, if they want to have a breakthrough, they want to change their body, they want to change their life, they look for how to do it. And that's natural, but it's the absolute wrong order. And if you do things in the wrong order, it's like having the numbers to a phone for someone and you dial in the wrong order, you don't reach somebody. Or the vault, right? You got the right numbers, wrong order, the vault doesn't open. Why are so many people overweight in this country? Like 60% of the population is overweight. How is that possible? Is it because what it takes to be fit and strong is so incredibly complex? No. Only the 1% knows? No. It's super expensive? No. You have to work not to know what to do. So the how is not the problem. So I say strategy, story, state. That's how you have a breakthrough. Yes, I'm a strategist. The right strategy can save you 10 years. I love that. It's fun. But if I start with a strategy, you'll listen and go, yeah, that's cool, and you won't do it. The real problem is the story you have. The story you have is, I've tried everything. The story you have, nothing works. The story has, all the good ones are gone and I'm gay and they're not, or they're gay and I'm not. The story is the belief you've told yourself over and over, because belief is the invisible force that controls everything in your life. And when you have a belief that you've honed because you're fearful and you've never done this before, then I can show you exactly how to do it. And you'll say, it doesn't work. I've tried that. Yeah. How many times? How hard? How many minutes? Right? But what's behind the story is your state, your mental, emotional state. If I said to you, I am going to lose 12 pounds in the next 6 weeks, there is non-negotiable. And here's what I'm going to do, this and this and this and this. Do you think I'm going to do it?
Yes.
You bet your ass I'm going to do it, right? You can feel the state.
Yeah.
So people are usually trying to figure out how to do something and they got a story about it when what they need first is the state. When you go in the right state, how many of this happen where you get in the flow and something comes through, you're hitting a tennis ball or you're speaking, and at the end of it, you're like, that was pretty awesome. I did that. How'd I do it? I don't know. That shit just flowed. That was pretty awesome, right? You're in a peak state. I put people in a peak state while they're doing the things we're talking about.
So what do you do right before you come out on stage? And what can anyone listening at home do before the big meeting, the big moment in their life, or really like on a daily basis to configure our state?
The first thing I do in my little daily routine is I go out, I use the jacuzzi for a moment to open my body up and everything else, and then I go on the cold plunge. And I've been doing that for 18 years now. Everybody talks about it. But I go into that cold plunge, and the secret, though, is I don't negotiate with myself. I go in the cold plunge for both the health purposes, because it floods your body, right, completely. But the real value is the mental discipline of, I don't go, okay, I'm ready. And I don't get in one where you just lie in here. I dunk under. I jump in. I've got one that goes above my head. I go under the water. I dive into it, right? And I don't stand there. I don't stand there and go, oh, I feel cold right now, or wait a minute. Or like, I've trained my brain. When I say go, we go. And I've done that for decades. And so I'm not in the place when I say go somewhere else, my brain obeys. I don't have these stories in my head back and forth trying to have a conversation with myself, trying to convince myself to do something I've decided, right? So decision point is everything. So I've trained myself to do it, but also it produces a massive change. It is not comfortable. I don't think there's been a morning in my life that I've looked forward to doing it, but it changes you. So that's one thing. The thing I do before I go on stage, I have a routine of how I shift my body. I have a prayer that I do, which is use me, Lord. And I picture being to serve as many human beings as possible. I see them not only where they are now, I see where they're going to be by the end of what I'm done.